Hello everyone, my name is Dan and I am your Design Journey art class expert for drawing in perspective. In this session we will be learning about one-point perspective. We'll start with some basic techniques, looking at what is involved in one-point perspective, and then we will create a drawing applying what we learn. Now, whilst these sessions can stand alone, I do advise watching the previous sessions if you haven't already. To follow along with this session, you will need some pencils. Here I have a pack of 6 drawing pencils, a ruler, a sharpener, maybe an eraser, and of course some paper to draw. So what is one-point perspective? Well, like the name suggests, it's drawing using only one point, and that one point is a vanishing point. And I briefly introduced vanishing points in the previous session, but again, a vanishing point is a point of convergence, meaning a set of parallel lines in the drawing will be directed towards that point. The best way for me to explain this is to draw out some boxes. I want you to also follow along and do what I do here as well. Now, before I start drawing, remember that we need to place the horizon line that is also our eye level. And for this example, I will place it across the centre of the page. Now we need to decide on where to place our one vanishing point on this line. I can show you some examples of how changing the position of both the horizon line and vanishing points changes the drawing later. For now, we can place the vanishing point in the centre. Now we are ready to start drawing out some boxes in one-point perspective. To construct a box, I start by drawing out its front plane. Feel free to make these boxes any size you like. Once you have that front plane drawn out, you can take some lines from each of its corners to that vanishing point. Now, to complete the box, you need to draw a back plane, and this can be placed further forwards or backwards depending on the depth of the box you are drawing. Once you have made that decision, you can easily draw in another square for the back plane, making sure the corners touch each of these lines. You have now constructed a box in one-point perspective, and because this box is directly centered on the horizon line and that vanishing point is also center, it means we see the box like so. Now, I will always draw through these boxes so that you can see each plane, and this will give you a better idea of the forms you are dealing with. So here I will continue to draw some more boxes at the same size. This one will be to the left of the vanishing point and will also be centered on the horizon line. So as always, I draw out the front plane and take some lines from each of its corners to that vanishing point. I now add a back plane, and this will be as far back as it was when we had drawn the first box there. I just take some lines across from that to find that distance. Notice that with this box we see the right side plane as the box is to the left of the vanishing point now. That left side plane also appears larger because it is further away from the vanishing point. So now I will draw the same box again, but this time it will be on the right. I construct all of these the same way, and here you can see that this time we see that left side plane, and this box is opposite to that one on the left. Now let's draw out the box below the horizon line this time, but keep it central to that vanishing point. Again, here I just drop some lines down from the existing box so that I can draw this at the same size. I draw out the front plane and I take some lines at each corner to the vanishing point. Now I add that back plane, and again I'll drop some lines down from that existing box so that this back plane is at the same depth. Now notice that this time we see the top of the box as the horizon line, our eye level, is above. If I was to draw out a box above, which is what I will do now, we will see the bottom of the box because it is above the horizon line. So you can see from this example how the horizon line and vanishing point impacts how we see what we draw. I'm not going to spend so much time on this example here, but it might be worth me saying that if I was to draw a box in any of these corners, let's say the bottom right here, then you would see the left side plane and the top plane of the box. So that is a simple starting example to give you an idea of how to construct a box and also how the horizon line and vanishing points impact how we see what is being drawn. Now we will be creating a final drawing towards the end of this session, but first let's spend a little bit more time dealing with boxes in 1 point perspective. In this example, I'm going to draw out some boxes at different sizes and in different positions. So as always, I will start by drawing out the horizon line. This will be across the centre of the paper here, and I will continue to place our one vanishing point on the centre of this line. Now, as I explained a moment ago, I will start to construct a box by drawing out its front plane first. This appears as a flat two-dimensional box, so draw this at any size you want and then take some lines from each of its corners to the vanishing point. Now you can draw out a back plane at a depth you are happy with. Just be sure that each of the corners of the back plane touches those lines that are converging to that vanishing point. So that is the first box drawn out. Now let's draw out another one, and let's make this one a bit bigger, but it's also going to be further back behind this first one. Here this box will cross that horizon line, meaning we won't see the top or bottom of this one. We do, however, still see those planes as I draw through these boxes as I construct it. Let's draw a box above. This time we will see the bottom of this one as it is above the horizon line here, so I'll continue to draw out some boxes here and you will be able to see how they appear in relation to the horizon line and vanishing point. I do recommend doing something like this yourself, as it's a good way to learn how to draw in perspective. In fact, as we move forward and look at 2 and 3 points perspective, we will continue to start by drawing boxes like this. I know as a beginner you might think, why am I drawing all of these boxes, but as you learn more you will come to understand that constructing a box in perspective is the foundation to constructing and drawing anything else. So here is a series of boxes at various sizes drawn out in 1 point perspective. Some of them are overlapping here and are placed behind and in front of each other. I like to add a bolder outline around all of these once they are drawn out. So I hope you have spent some time drawing out some boxes like that and becoming familiar with that one vanishing point, because now we are going to apply what we learn to create a final drawing. In this session I will be drawing this image of a tree alley. You'll find that most of the example drawings throughout these sessions will be relative to the subject of nature, as that is the underlying theme of the design journey. So with that being said, let's create a drawing in 1 point perspective. So I will begin by drawing out a picture plane. This will be the border for the drawing. Now the next step is to establish the position of the horizon line. Now this time I will place it not directly across the centre, instead I will place it slightly lower down. Remember, this is also our eye level. Now I need to decide on where to place my vanishing point. Here in this example, I will again place it on the centre of the horizon line, and I will also draw a vertical line up from that, and this is just so that I can work out where the centre of my drawing is, because in this drawing both sides will be symmetrical, and so it's useful to use your ruler here and actually measure out where you draw your lines. For example, as I start to construct this drawing, I will take some lines from that vanishing point down to the border of my drawing like so, and I want these to be equally spaced apart. This is just a personal preference. Now I will continue to take some more lines from that vanishing point outwards like so. Here what I am doing is I am outlining a path and also what is going to be some grass verges at either side. I will draw some lines above as well, and these can be for the trees. So now I have a series of lines at either side converging to that vanishing point, and now I am going to add some vertical lines which will indicate the position of the trees. So I start by drawing out a vertical line between these converging lines here, and I do this on both sides. Now I will do the same again, but a little further up. This time these lines will be shorter in length, and that is because everything diminishes in size as it goes further into the distance. So I have a set of vertical lines drawn out at either side. Now what I will do is show you a technique here that I will be explaining in more depth in a later session. It's a technique for multiplying planes in perspective. That might sound confusing, but it's very simple and also very useful. So what I will do is I will take a line from the top of one of these vertical lines to the bottom of the other vertical line. I will do this on both sides like so. I have created a cross between these two lines, and the center of that cross is the center point of this plane. Now I can take a line from that vanishing point to that point and create that halfway line. The next step is to take another line from the bottom of this corner through the point at which that halfway line crosses the next vertical line, and I can continue to extend this until it meets the top line converging to that vanishing point. At this point I can draw the next vertical line. Now whilst this might seem fairly complex, it's very useful because I have now accurately multiplied that dimension between the two vertical lines in perspective. So here I repeat this technique numerous times at either side until I have a series of vertical lines heading to that vanishing point and reducing in size. That's an important thing to consider when drawing in perspective, the fact that everything diminishes in size as it heads further into the distance. In this example, the space between these vertical lines, which will be the position of the trees, will get smaller. You can by all means just estimate the distance between them, but you don't have to when there's a simple technique that you can put to use. You might want to check out the later session on working with volume because I cover it there more in depth. Anyways, now I have a series of vertical lines drawn out like this, and the next step is to begin by outlining this drawing. So as I said, these vertical lines are the position of the trees, and so here I will start to outline the trees, or at least the trunks for the trees, and at the top of these I will also draw out some branches, most of which will be covered when we draw in the leaves anyways. But now you can start to work on the surrounding environment using those construction lines to assist you. Here in this drawing there is this path which is central, and the trees are situated on a grass verge at either side, and further out to the side there will be some fields. Also on the horizon line I will outline some trees and hills in the distance there. All of these outlines and what they are will become clearer when I start to render this drawing. I also create a simple outline for the leaves of these trees, and at this point the drawing has been constructed and I can start to render this in pencil. So get your set of pencils and drawing equipment ready because we are going to render this drawing and transform it into some artwork that doesn't just look like a series of construction lines. So to begin I will take the 2B pencil and I will start to shade in what will be the grass verges on either side. Now whenever I am drawing a grass or foliage I tend to create circular motions with the pencil. This creates a subtle texture that does well to represent how grass might appear. This 2B pencil that I am using is good for applying the first layer of pencil, and by changing the pressure you apply with it, you can achieve some darker or lighter shades. You will also notice at the edge of this path or in some other places, I create some darker outlines to help define the separation between these parts. I also work over areas that I shade in, creating different effects by changing the motion of the pencil. I am shading in these fields at either side here, and at the edge I create some darker lines, which gradually gets lighter as they proceed into the distance. All of these outlines will likely start to make more sense to you as I shade them in, because you can start to see what everything is. When it comes to the trees, you want to apply quite a bit of pressure with the pencil, as these trees want to be darker than the surrounding environment. I create a texture for these trees which involves creating a series of short vertical lines. I will be going into more depth and explaining how to produce various textures in a later session. So once all of these trees have been rendered, it is time to draw in the leaves. And I have saved this part until last because it can be very time consuming. I have a method when it comes to drawing leaves and foliage that involves creating circular motions with the pencil, which come together to create the effect of leaves. And so here you can see that I start to do this, and whilst this is a pretty straightforward thing to do, it can take a long time to do. As you do this, you want to leave some separating space between these circles in places, and you also want to consider the shape of the tree that you are drawing. In this example, most of this top section will be covered in leaves as these trees are positioned all the way down here. So just take your time and continue to draw these out all the way across like I do here. So finally, once you have these leaves drawn out, it is time to put that 2B pencil aside that we have been using and take a softer 6B pencil and begin working into this. So this is a softer pencil, and this will allow you to create darker shades, and so it's at this stage when you can start to work into what you have previously drawn out, and you can start to add some contrast to the overall image. Here I start with the trees and the leaves that I had just drawn. I work over this, adding some darker sections, continuing to repeat that same technique, creating circular motions with the pencil. You can also be fairly spontaneous here. You don't have to be all that accurate, just consider the position of the trees and where you are making these darker sections. As you can see, this starts to have an impact on the drawing, and these darker values start to define everything more clearly. I also darken these paths by shading them in using the softer pencil, and you'll notice that as you darken various areas, the existing lighter areas might need to be worked on as well. Here I spend a lot of time at this final stage working into the image as a whole until I have a result that I am satisfied with. Here is the final drawing, a tree alley drawn in 1 point perspective. So I hope you have enjoyed this session of the Design Journey art class. If you have followed along and created your own drawings, then be sure to share them over on Instagram using the hashtag #MyDesignJourney. There is no reason why you can't start now. As I said earlier, an ideal example for you to start drawing would be to create a series of boxes like I did at the start of this session. You will really benefit from this. Also, any artwork you create, be sure to tag me at danbiajour as well, because I want to see what you create. With that being said, thank you for watching and joining me in this session.